Let's bring in the panel now. We're joined by the host of this program for the last month or so, Sky News digital editor Jack Houghton. Good to see you, mate.
Good to see you.
And
welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back here, and thanks for filling in, by the way. It was
My
fantastic
pleasure.
over the last month. You even had me on as a guest,
Yeah.
which was very generous of you. And from the West, Sky News contributor, businesswoman and West Australian columnist Gemma Tognetti.
Hello.
Look, no media is perfect.
No.
But it just goes to the point of media diversity, doesn't it? I mean, the Western Australian scene could do with some News Corp.
Oh, absolutely. I think we've discussed on this show before that the barrier to entry has never been lower. If I wanted to have the time, the inclination and the financial backing, Chris, I could start my own news service tomorrow. I mean, Western Australia is a very different state in many, many ways, and some of the coverage you've alluded to really has tapped into that parochial sentiment and that Fortress WA mentality that is historic in WA. But when I started my career, you had an environment where there was 2 or 3 daily printed newspapers. There was a couple on Sunday, and TV newsrooms also had greater resources. So that shrinking has certainly not been restricted to papers. Now they have the Nine Media, formerly Fairfax, in the form of WA Today and Channel 9 and its radio stations, and they're giving it a really good shake, in my view. But the perception of having printed pages, it carries a lot of weight. And I think if you look at every other media market in Australia, WA is probably the least diverse at all. There's no question about that.
Yeah, fascinating stuff, isn't it? Jack, the way the ABC is pushing the Rudd petition and Malcolm Turnbull and this attack on News Corp. I mean, look, they've all got a right to a view. Don't get me wrong. We don't think that News Corp shouldn't be attacked, but the ABC, with $1 billion of taxpayers' money, is running a campaign on this.
Yeah, well, there was some analysis was published in The Australian that showed between October, when this all started to really heat up, and this month, 3,500 times it was reported across their print, television and radio. So it's, look, there's definitely a story in it. I mean, these guys used to run the country. There is a newsworthy component to the Royal Commission. But to do it thousands of times for something which, there's not going to be a Royal Commission, I don't believe. I don't think that's going to get up.
Well, there's a Senate inquiry. There's a Senate inquiry underway.
Senate inquiry, but I welcome that. We're going to be looking at the tech giants. We're going to look at the ABC, how they're encroaching on their commercial.
You making a submission?
I definitely think that there should be some submissions to how the ABC
if I only had the time.
Yeah, how it hurts media diversity and it encroaches in the commercial area, such as spending millions of dollars buying Facebook search algorithms.
Yeah, that is a good point. They might be sorry what they wish for here,
yes.
because even Crikey, even a left-wing outfit like Crikey.com
yes.
has slammed the ABC for basically using taxpayers' money to encroach on their turf. When they started out as sort of a comment and newsy left-wing discussion site, what did the ABC do? They started up the Drum website.
Yeah. And look, I think if you look at it from a news perspective and if you look at news values, and of course they vary from organisation to organisation, but in my humble opinion, the amount of time that the ABC is devoting to this issue across news and current affairs, I think is disproportionate to the level of importance it carries for wider Australia. And I wish from the memory, I can't remember who said, I just saw it this morning, one of the commentary in print, but it was the ABC isn't not reflecting wider Australia, Chris. We've had this conversation.
Yeah, Michael Kroger wrote a great piece in The Australian yesterday, there's no doubt. And they run a line that is sort of denigrates Australian culture and history.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And the concept of diversity as someone whose father was Italian, whose mother was born in Brisbane to German, Scottish and Prussian Jewish heritage. I don't know what I am, quite honestly, but...
You're a West Australian.
Well,
Fortress Western Australia.
I'm an escapee from the McGowan line, behind the McGowan line.
How are you going to get back there, by the way?
I have a pass.
Oh,
but if I go missing, you'll know it's political. Just kidding, Premier. But my point about diversity is it is diversity of thought, obviously, and that comes from background, and we'll have the amount of time that is spent agonising over it.
You hold your thoughts on diversity at the ABC, because we'll come back to that later in the program. Just before we finish on this topic, though, Jack, I'm astounded when they get Malcolm Turnbull and Kevin Rudd on the ABC so often to promote their jihad against News Corp and this Royal Commission idea. Why are they never asked, these former Prime Ministers, about their own failures and whether they're looking to blame somebody else for their own manifest political failures?
Yeah, and I think both of these men have backflipped quite significantly on their relationships with journalists in particular, and particularly with News Corp. And I know, look, Kevin Rudd may want to blame his political failures on News Corp, but we know that it was very much in the way he carried himself. It was his inability to form relationships within his own cabinet that was his downfall. Same with Malcolm Turnbull. This had nothing really to do with journalists, and you can see that the way that they are prosecuting this is a vendetta.